Talking about you got this and you got that, and you gonna murder this one and murder that one. Talking all that bullshit. I'm gonna put it to you like this, yo.
This is for the nerds, this is for the brainiacs, this what we deserve. Go ahead and play it back, you ain't gonna touch me, you not gonna do nothing, you are not above me. I bet you wish you was me, I know it, I know.
What is poppin', everybody? And welcome back to another special episode of the Only Friends podcast. Well, you know, it's me and my only friends, which includes, but is not limited to, my sidekick. What's poppin', Berk? How you feeling today?
Man, I gotta tell you, you've never looked better.
Oh,
I
yeah?
mean, the fucking meatloaf is out. Like we're in it, huh? No, don't button it up. Don't button it up.
Just go with
I
it.
let it flow,
Yeah,
big guy. Let it go.
What's going on, man?
You know, we're just out here doing a little due diligence, a little bit of work.
All right, sounds good. I heard you got worked at the Bellagio today.
It doesn't always got to be about that, man. You know,
I mean,
it doesn't always got to be about the results.
That's what I heard, though.
Hang on.
All right, we're hanging on. Guapo, what's poppin'? What are you doing?
Watching guys win and lose $1 million pots on the Triton streets.
How'd that feel?
It feels like I should be out there because I feel like I can hang with them boys.
Yeah, so we've taught you everything.
Well, I don't know, but I definitely think I can hold my own. That's for sure.
Man, I got to tell you, I don't know.
If I can hold my own.
Big shout out to Greg, by the way. If this podcast has done me nothing else, it's got me a lot of free Steeler shit.
Oh, yeah? What'd you get this time?
Manuel got me that nice little Berkey Steeler logo behind my head. Greg hooked me up with a signed Jack Ham autographed Steelers football.
Who the fuck is Jack Ham?
Don't you worry about it. He was a linebacker out of Penn State. Legend. And he also gave me a signed George Pickens card.
I know who that is.
And a Kutch card.
Wow.
I get all kind of. I got this Yinzer Bible right here. You know what I mean? People understand. They get it. They're with the bit.
You just get a bunch of Pittsburgh shit all the time.
They knew the assignment, man.
You know what I get? Cincinnati shit because they hate Pittsburgh.
I don't know who's giving you Cincinnati shit.
I got a Bengals jersey.
Man, that didn't work out too well, did it?
Well, apparently he wants me to now wear somebody else's jersey that's like maybe a Steelers jersey, so they get injured. Yeah, because
can you get that other microphone out of your shot? It's bothering me.
Oh, yeah, no problem.
Bothering me, man. All right, thank you.
Let's get that
yeah, so I am.
True.
We're in the late slot this week, and today was my fault, but apparently it's not technically my fault because Guapo's working the Triton cash streams as he has alluded to. So we're going to be in this spot probably all week long. We're going to be off on Friday since La Manager decided to take a vacation.
Hey, are we still off next week too?
Yeah, we're going to be off next week.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
Is it during Triton?
Triton ends on Saturday, so that means next week I can take like a little mini vacation.
Oh, okay.
Guapo says that every time, and he goes nowhere. He literally, he fucking.
All right, hold on.
No, he hasn't.
He's going to Thailand, bro.
I'll only work like 1 or 2 jobs versus 4.
Right.
Guapo has a little inflatable pool in his backyard. He's got his little swimmies. He's gonna get his little a book or something. He's gonna post up for the day.
It's really funny because I was thinking like, oh man, what a disappointing thing. Like I could have timed this better, where the vacation week was the week that he was pulling double duty. But no. He thinks about it like, oh man, actually a week where I have no responsibilities.
Yep.
And that means that the eBay store can finally get tended to.
That's right. That's right.
That's great news. So yeah,
20% off.
we're gonna be we're gonna be in the late slot all this week. So hopefully you guys will get accustomed to this at least for the next 4 days, and then I head back to Pittsburgh as Brian gets back. So you guys won't see us next week, but I did get torched today. By torched, I mean I didn't win as much as I should have. I was up like 60 or so. Played a hand in the stand-up game where it went raise, 3-bet, cold call. I got kings. Hit him with the 4-bet. Fold, call. 10-8-5, 2 diamonds. We got red kings. SPR's like 2. Check. I bet 2/3. That's roughly 2E. Jam. Call. He asked me if I have a set. I said no.
Okay, what is this game?
Wait, when he said, "Do you have a set?" Do you
on
ever
a
think?
10-4-3 board? Is that what you said?
10-8-5, 2 diamonds.
You know, you never win when he says, "Do you have a set?"
Yeah, I'm fully aware.
That's heartbreaking.
He said, "Do you have a set?" I said no. He said, "I do."
I guess that means he's
And-
got bottom set.
Yeah, he had 5s. He held, and I ended up winning like $3,500.
That's a good.
Cab fare.
Honestly, that is a very good day.
I
You put it-
legitimately last night. I legitimately said, I don't know if I could tell you the last time that I won or lost 5K in this game. Like, I truly don't think it happens more than like 3 or 4 times a year.
And then immediately.
And then immediately the very next session, it's like, well, here you go. Here's one. Here's one for the books.
Sounds about right. That's how things work.
Wasn't fun. Even worse, this is a complete me problem. Like, this is how I malfunction as a human. So my plan was, well, first of all, my plan was to wake up early enough to go to the gym.
Okay.
That didn't happen because we played till 2 a.m. So and I had to be at the Bellagio at 10. There was no way I was getting up at 7 to go to the gym. Tried, failed, didn't work, whatever. So I go, okay, well, I have to be at the podcast for 6 anyway, which means I need to leave Bellagio by 5. I'll just leave at 3:30 and go to the gym prior, because that's a good 6.5 hour session of cards. And, what's another 90 minutes as opposed to me going and doing the healthy thing, right? And then I lost this pot at 3:12.
fucking annoyed.
And I said, fuck the gym. I'm going to ruin every one of these motherfuckers. And I didn't. I won $0. I literally was up 3,500 after that hand. I cashed out plus 3,500. We called it a day. It was 90 minutes of me spinning my wheels for no good reason. Didn't go to the gym. And I thought about it. I was like, this is so dumb, because if you quantify it, I don't care. Like, whatever my hourly is not enough to put these things off, right? But my competitive drive to want to ruin everybody that just spoiled my day is so high that I can't, I just can't see past anything else. And it's like, I'm too old for this, man. I need to, reshift my focus. Like, I should be working on my Wolverine build, not
Your what?
my Wolverine build.
Oh my.
Hugh Jackman is 53 years old.
Okay.
I need to get in Hugh Jackman shape.
I mean, our chat calls you fat every day, so.
All the more reason I should not have stayed there for another 90 minutes instead of going to the gym.
Yeah, very good point.
Can I give you guys a preview of my vacay?
Is it Thailand?
I can't wait to see this.
I actually thought that was Conrad for a second. Bro, you
It's
can
my
just
little
come.
pool, man. Don't hate on me.
You can just come to my house. I have a real pool.
Hey, man, that's a real pool, all right?
That's not a real pool. You can
Yeah,
swim laps in mine
It's got water,
with all the dogs. All right, we have a great show for you guys today. I don't know about great, but we have a show for you guys today. It's just the three of us, as you can tell, but big topic of conversation. Been working on this episode for, the better part of 45 days, I would say.
We teased it a couple times too.
Yeah, and honestly, it goes back even further than that. The first time I was made privy of what was going on was Bahamas, when we were there for PCA. What was that, Bahamas 2023?
Yeah.
Yeah, so January 2023 was the first instance where this information kind of started circulating around the high-stakes community. And then it was just forgotten about. None of us really ran into any problems. There was that brief instance where Landon definitely got cheated in Houston.
But that was before.
No, that was maybe either right before or right after the summer last year.
Okay.
But yeah, it was definitely last year, so it was post Bahamas.
Okay.
And looking back, we had been convinced that it was a deckmate thing that they probably had access to.
Mm-hmm.
But looking back, this methodology seems to make a lot more sense.
Okay.
I'm really burying the lead and kind of teasing this out, but once I kind of give you guys details, I think you understand. And also, it makes me really want to revisit, some of the previous cheating scandals we've seen. Not so much Apostle, that one I feel pretty confident. He just had stream access.
Yeah.
but more so like.
Don't talk about my girl.
I'm just saying.
Don't.
I mean, the water bottle was
my
there.
girl.
I mean, that's one thing we can say.
The water bottle now, all of a sudden, the water bottle being on the table makes a hell of a lot of fucking sense.
But it's so hard to like have a camera in that and nobody just like see it after.
No way.
Huh?
No way.
What do you mean?
These cameras are microscopic.
Yeah.
They're so small. The earbud. Okay, so I'll fill you guys in on what happened. So there's been these cheating rings going around for the better part of 18 months. Some have said it dates all the way back to like 4 or 5 years ago, perhaps even further. We're not really sure. But in any event, recently, as recent as 2 days ago, actually, somebody was finally caught and arrested. And this is the first smoking gun that we've actually seen accessed, where, you know, everything else I'm going to speak to today is speculation with a high degree of conviction.
Okay.
We're speculating what happened. We're speculating that we were cheated, but the level of confidence that myself and roughly 100 other high stakes regs have is somewhere in the 90th plus percentile.
Gotcha.
Just really, really impossible for a lot of the events that occurred for it not to be cheating. The same way Landon was very confident in Texas. It just makes sense. And honestly, like looking back on the Texas thing, almost certain that these guys were a part of this group. But what happened, I guess this was 2 days ago, was French police caught a casino fraudster using a mini earpiece and a camera. So they didn't divulge like any images of what they found or anything like that, but they described it. And effectively what was happening was this player was in a game where he had a pinhole camera inserted into a device that he had on the felt. Now, I don't think they described what it was. I think people are always really aloof about giving details because they don't want to give the opportunity to replicate. But the thing is like once it's out, then we have something to look forward to.
Yeah.
So I can give you guys more detail as we go on about how we perceive the cheating to have occurred. But anyway, he had a pinhole camera in some sort of device on the felt. Call it a card protector, call it a phone, a key fob, something along those lines.
Something.
Right? Yeah, something like that. He had a very microscopic camera. And additionally, he was wearing an earpiece that was so small it had to be removed from his ear with a magnet.
That's insane.
So it's just totally undetectable by the naked eye, right? And when I tell you how we got cheated this summer, it's going to be laughable because this guy was fucking using AirPods.
Yeah.
Like he was just spitting in our face. Like, fuck you guys, do something about it. So in any event, they basically like cased this guy out who they suspected of being a part of, and then the article says allegedly, using this sophisticated technique to fraudulently win only tens of thousands of dollars in this particular instance.
Only.
Well, when I start to tell you the numbers are getting kicked around, some of the games that I frequent and others, this is a slap on the wrist.
I mean, it sounds like one day, so regardless, it's just like
That's true.
Accumulation.
Yeah, that part's actually very true.
I guarantee these guys didn't sleep for fucking, I don't know, the last 3 years probably.
That's true. So the way that it works is the pinhole camera captures the dealer's pitch. So as the dealer is pitching the cards out around the table, it's able to capture an image of each card as it's being dealt out, and then you know what each seat holds. Very similar to this demonstration that we're showing you here. From there, that information is being
That is a
seen.
really good camera.
Right. It's like
For as small as it is.
so
I mean,
small.
it's,
Yeah. So from there, that information's passed back to a third party. Now, in this particular instance, that third party was like sitting in a car outside of the casino, just like
It's a straight up
minding his own.
movie.
Yeah, like you can't write this shit. You truly can't. Like if you scripted this, someone would throw it away and be like, "That's so unbelievable."
That's literally every movie heist in France.
Yeah,
Literally.
yeah. It's like a dozen gambling movie tropes just thrown into one. I'm sure the guy was smoking a cigarette.
Yep.
You know, just as you are.
He had his leather jacket on.
Right. So what ends up happening then is he relays the information back to the player via the earpiece. Yeah.
Dude, how strong must that signal be?
No. They're just talking through WhatsApp.
What I'm saying is if there's video being caught of the hole cards, that video is being sent back to...
Everything's going through his phone.
Okay.
Right? So what happens is the camera is connected to the phone.
His phone.
Yeah.
At the table.
The player at the table. Yeah. And then he's just sharing his screen on an open WhatsApp call to whoever's on the outside.
Okay.
WhatsApp or some other communication. Discord would make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So he's not actually looking at his phone. No. Someone is actually just relaying
the guy who cheated us had his phone on the rail for 18 hours and never touched it one fucking time.
Okay.
It's
just
that's sharp, because then you're really giving yourself away.
Yeah, of course. You pick it up one fucking time and you just, there's this video up or there's a call going on or whatever the case may be. So yeah, that information then gets passed two ways. It's the information gets received from the game to a third party. That third party then relays it back. I've heard, and again, this is speculation, I don't know how true it is, but I've heard some of the more sophisticated rings that are doing this at scale just have a call center in like Indonesia.
That's pretty sick.
It's just like $8 an hour workers that are just sitting around watching a poker game, relaying back to you the whole cards of your opponents.
Think about this. If you have that going on, how many people do you think you have working for you?
Right.
Like in that scheme.
Right. That's the thing.
That means like, fuck. A lot of games can be tainted around the world. That's crazy.
For sure. And the thing is the only reason they're getting caught is because they got greedy and went to high stakes.
Yeah.
Right. Like it's virtually impossible to catch something like this in low stakes because there's no barrier of entry. Right. There's no private games. Everything is public. And
not only that, to split profits at those games, it's just not really worth.
Right. Well, it is if you can put in volume, but yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. It's too slow. Right. It's just too slow. The money isn't really worth it all that much. And it's also very tricky because like, well, maybe it's not that tricky because like you can move seats a little bit easier, but like basically you
want to be in the 1 or the 9.
They need to be in the 1, 2, 9, or 8.
Yeah.
And actually, really you want to be in the 1 or the 2 specifically because most dealers are right-handed.
Yeah.
So they pitch around like this. Whereas now if you're on the other side, you're missing that whole half of the table.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, basically you just really want to be in the 1 or the 2 when it's all said or done. And maybe in like public games, that's doable, I guess. And you could even have multiple people in the same game with devices so that somebody ends up in the 1 or the 2.
Yeah.
But I think the bigger issue with like smaller stakes or why it's not going to be super common at small stakes, I suppose, is the money factor. Like Guapo mentioned, the risk just isn't really worth the reward all that much. Yeah, like you're doing this for, if you do this at like 5-10, I mean, I don't know.
Even if you still got to split that in half, though.
Yeah, but you might be able to do it for like $300 an hour.
And it's not even like you don't have to split anything in half. You can have multiple people in multiple games. Like they have a fucking if they have a call center. Like think about how many people can like be working per se.
Yeah, if you had an operation of like a few dozen people, honestly, I take it back. I think this might
crush low stakes.
And for what it's worth, I heard that LA, like specifically Commerce, was like plagued with this.
Like. Wow.
Maybe still are, but the most recent stories have all come out post World Series.
Okay.
Because everybody was here for the summer. So obviously these games were getting hit. And I know of at least 3 high stakes games that were hit. I know of a high roller that was hit. The irony though is they were all effectively caught.
Okay.
I mean, like, not caught red-handed, we have the device on you, you're banned from all properties, but like confidently caught to where everybody got banned from the games.
Gotcha.
And one person had to have his device removed. Like we're pretty sure he had it in his sunglasses.
This is at Commerce you're talking about?
No, this is all here during the summer. But now that the World Series is over, everybody's dispersing. So I heard that the high stakes game in Parks got hit most recently.
Okay.
I heard that a bunch of games in Commerce were being targeted over the last like 2 or 3 weeks.
Is this a network of people or just?
I mean,
it's a large network of people. There was a statement. This is a little bit older now. We found this whenever we originally were looking into the Bahamas cheating ring, which I'll give some details on that momentarily. But to give you a little bit more framework of what we're dealing with here and what to look for, essentially, there was this statement made in Korean that was then translated. And it's a very rough translation, but in essence, the long and short of this statement is that there's a cheating ring that's going around that is mixed between Russians and Uzbekistans or Uzbek nationality.
Yeah.
And they basically are some mix of. Basically, they're saying like it's a distribution of like 70% Koreans, 30% Russians. And the way that these rings are working are just how I described. Somebody sits in the 1 or 2 seat. They have a device. That device catches the dealer's pitch. That information is then relayed to a third party who relays it back to the player and now has relatively perfect information. Obviously, some cards might get missed here and there, but you're going to be working with a lot of information when it's all said and done. The scale of which this, I guess, extends out is maybe a bit unknown, but what we do know is that, hang on, I want to look at my notes, make sure I get this right. What we do know is that the way that they're cheating, which we've already previously discussed, as well as where these stories are coming out of. So we've heard from the Bahamas, as I previously mentioned, Texas, LA, Pennsylvania now, in Philly. Obviously, the WSOP, there was an instance in the 50K event. There was an instance in pretty much every major room here this summer.
That's sick.
Triton, WPT, private cash games, Cyprus, Norway, Korea, Florida, Montenegro.
So everywhere.
All of these are on the list. So in order to hit that mass over 18 months, the operation's obviously not small. And at this point, I think we all are kind of the impression that it's a concentrated effort amongst a relatively well-comprised group.
If we were guessing, how many people would you say? Because like if you think about it, it has to be, I don't know, at the bare minimum, 30 to 40 maybe?
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I mean, the thing is too, like, some of the people, like, there's a reason why I'm not showing pictures or naming names, right? Some of the people are believed to be incredibly connected.
Gotcha.
And that's not really a risk I want to take on by being a bit of a
whistleblower.
Not even a whistleblower. I just I'm mostly doing this to get the word out and try to influence operators a little bit better, because there's an easy way to correct this.
Take everything off the table.
No. That's what they're going to gravitate towards, and it's not the right way to police this.
That's the first thing that I would think of.
Right, but it's and I don't mean to come off so harshly, but it's incorrect. And the reason why is because you can never strip somebody naked. There was a person who was asked to leave a Triton event because he refused to remove his jewelry. The camera was suspected to be in the ring on his finger. Wow. So like, you can't take that off the table. Yeah. Right. You don't see the earbud because it's microscopic. These devices are going to continue to get smaller and smaller and smaller. So you have to go to the core of the problem, which is the dealer's pitch. You have to correct the dealer's pitch.
That's so hard to do, man.
It's not. It's not. It was hard to burn a card too until you made it protocol. You know?
Yes, maybe.
Right? Like, things just have to get instituted that are good for the long-term health of the game. And sure, it'll be a slow process. Okay. But it has to start with somebody deciding that this is worth retraining, right?
How long do you, like, all right, so seriously, we have problems at the WSOP already as it is, right?
Sure.
All right, next year, they implement something like this.
Mm-hmm.
How bad of a situation do you think we have on our hands?
In terms of, like, the dealers getting it right?
Yes.
That's going to be bad.
Like, most of these people...
You're I get what you're saying.
Most
but
of these people won't throw a
I understand
pitch.
what you're saying, but I think you're coming at it the wrong way.
Okay.
The corrective action between now and next World Series would be every event that is a 3K buy-in or larger has dealers who use the Euro pitch.
Okay.
Now you're only talking about a few dozen, maybe a couple hundred at most dealers that need to be trained. So you're talking about somewhere between 10 and 20% of the dealers staffed need to be capable of a Euro pitch. That's not that hard. That's like being able to deal a mixed game.
Yeah, no, you can find.
Can you explain what that is, Matt?
So the cards never leave the felt. Effectively, and this is another way that it starts. You get them a shoe.
Wait, hold on. If they're doing all of this in Europe and Asia, don't they all use that pitch?
No.
They don't?
No.
So Asia doesn't use the pitch?
The places that I know for sure, actually, no. I don't even think it's consistent. I was going to say the EPT does it across the board, but I think it's dealer by dealer.
Really?
I think some dealers use it and some dealers don't. But in Australia, if I recall, they all did it because they were given shoes. So they basically have what you have, like a blackjack shoe, and they just pitch off of that. Yeah. So that's the training wheel, right? Like you get to the degree where you start getting people to start implementing a pitch off of a shoe. Again, it's like no different than adding a burn card. Like I'm sure somewhere along the line, people were like, well, this is really stupid, until they were like, hey, marking cards is a problem. This asshole knows what's coming. Yeah. It's like, oh, okay, well, what if we burn the top card? Then he just knows what's not coming. You know, that's a little bit different. At least it's not going to fully eliminate cheating, but it eliminates this method of cheating.
Yeah, and this method seems to be pretty fucking good.
It's very efficient. And I want to be clear, too, because I don't want people to start getting terrified of technology again, because that's not what's happening here. Mm-hmm. This isn't some massive technological breakthrough. This isn't a ban the phones type of situation, because you don't need all of these things in order to still execute on this level of cheating, right? It's just... The only thing that's gotten better with the tech is the size. Yeah. We've gotten smaller earpieces. We've gotten smaller cameras. But again, this stuff can be put into clothing. It could be, what a lot of the people in this group are using are those fidget spinners. Right? So like the clickers, the ones that shuffle back and forth, or like the fidget spinners, stuff like that, they'll put the camera in there because it's a card protector.
Yeah, it's genius.
You know? So I think from a operator standpoint, like the big message I'm trying to get out is like, look, we have to really, really, really encourage on our biggest stages for sure that we switch the way dealers are handling these spots. And it's going to suck in the near term, but long term, it's a much better product.
Let me ask you a question. Are they even allowed to deal like that right now?
Why wouldn't they be?
I don't know. I've never seen anybody do it. So
I can't imagine why they wouldn't be allowed to.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't know. I've never seen anybody do it, so...
But yeah,
I do question that.
It's going to slow the game down, right? If they start pitching out of a shoe.
I mean, at first it will.
Yeah, there will be. But the biggest thing is that I think we're all willing to accept that at the high buy-in level, because you know where we suspect that this cheating occurred at the World Series was in a 50K, right? So it's like this guy has sunglasses on the table and he's doing all this wild stuff. You know, like, and I was speaking to a few people who were actually at the table, and they're like, yeah, I don't know, man. Like, you know, he was doing like dumb things like calling a 10 big blind all in with like 9 high. It's like, yeah, but if he knows that you have king 10 or whatever, and it's not going to damage his stack, it's kind of like a free gamble.
It's also smart because it shows losing pots.
Exactly. You look like a whale.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's the biggest thing. So doubling back to get a little more details in here before I go on to the Bahama story. The biggest thing about this collective group is that they all look like VIPs. Mm-hmm. So across the board, every single photo that's been sent to me, every accusation that we've believed, it looks like the type of guy that you would pull a 10th chair up for.
That's sick.
And that's like a really big aspect of the profiling, because especially in low stake games where like players aren't going to know what to look for, they're just going to assume naturally these people are the whale. And like what they're doing is super whaley, and it appears very whaley. And it, honestly, like it got Landon. Like he played a game that he's not even very good at in PLO because these guys are doing so much wild shit and wailing around. And it's like, you know, as somebody who's been in the industry for 20 years, if I can give any maxim for you young guys to live off of, if it looks too good to be true, it's fucking cheated. I'll promise you that. I promise you that. If you're a pro and you suddenly got an invite to a rec-only home game, that shit is cheated. If you see 3 recreationals sitting in a high-stakes open public game in a casino with only 1 or 2 pros in it and no one else wants to sit, it's because they're fucking cheating. You know, it's like you just have to use your common sense and due diligence. And I'm not saying this arrogantly, like none of us ever got. I'm certain I've been cheated. Matter of fact, I know I was for a brief period of time this summer, but I was also the first one to catch it. Yeah. And another much larger game that was happening. You know, they took somewhere in the neighborhood of like mid to high 7 figures out of this game. Took literally one hand history for me to be like, buddy, you're getting cheated right now. He's like, no, I'm 4-handed with like 2 whales and this other guy. And I'm like, playing how big? 501K? Yeah. And you haven't won a pot? And that shit's happening? And he sends me a picture. I was like, you see those 2 phones on the rail?
Yikes.
You're getting cheated, my friend.
That was like, real time?
Yeah. He just racked up and left.
Oh, okay.
And then we found out, like, you know, very, very probable that game was cheated.
You know something that's kind of scary, I guess you can say, or kind of annoying maybe? How did they get caught in Paris, but they've been here for the past 2 months? and nothing.
No, that's very fair.
Like
feel
we
like somebody-
not one, like nothing, not a sniff of it. And there's so many cases.
I can say this much. I don't know how much information I'm allowed to divulge.
Yeah.
But gaming knows.
Okay.
Gaming knows. Gaming has these guys on record. Gaming is, they've seen the tapes. Whatever they do from here is totally up to them.
Yeah.
And my best guess is these guys aren't in town any longer.
Yeah.
They
just
especially because they're all foreign.
Yeah, they're probably dispersed across the country. And honestly, I think about it, it's probably bigger than what we think. Because if, say you have 40 people, right? People want to get like their cousins involved. Like a lot of people younger, their friends. Like I think that this could be huge and like happening at low stakes as well.
Yeah.
Just because why not?
Right. Because the thing is that like the hourly is actually quite good. I don't know precisely what it would be, but I imagine that you're probably able to make like 3 to 5x what the biggest winner in that stake level is.
Yeah, and also
without getting detected.
And on top of that, you get to travel the world. You get to do stuff. You get to get out of wherever you are.
Yeah,
like I definitely think that this could be way bigger.
Yeah, the thing, there's a couple issues. One, there isn't a whole lot of fallout for a cheater. Like,
yes.
From my perspective, as a player, I don't feel like super protected by operators. And this includes like Nevada Gaming.
Yeah.
Like,
let me ask you: did we have any? Do we know what happened to them in Paris?
No. So the article is very short and definitely lacking a lot of detail.
Okay.
But essentially, it concluded with saying like they were just arrested.
Okay.
And allegedly, I thought I read somewhere else, but they were also like doing this at blackjack, I think.
Interesting.
But
that doesn't make sense because they used the thing. Oh, I guess single shoot. No, yeah, because the dealer.
The only thing I would think of is that they'd be able to see the dealer's bottom card.
Yeah, in single shoot. I mean, in double deck, whatever.
What is the?
Because they hold it in their hand. As opposed
right.
to they do
it
double deck, they hold it in their hand and whatever.
Yeah,
you can see like the bottom card.
Yeah.
So yeah, that might.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, if they hold it in their hand and they come down like this, they would be able to catch it.
Interesting.
But yeah, I mean, obviously, poker is like super susceptible to all of this.
Of course, that's how they started. If that's the only way cheaters get caught in the casino, they go to the fucking pit.
Exactly.
The same thing happened with Benny in Boston, the guy that cheated my game for a while in New York or North Jersey, and it's like every time they go to the pit, Gaming sees it or something like that, and it comes down on them. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. Yeah, I mean, look, I don't know. I don't know necessarily how rampant it is. And I'm not doing this podcast to get people worried about the state of live poker, right? Like we'll have that conversation later this week with Pads.
I mean, live poker is fucking great.
Live poker is alive and well, but what's really happening is the veil is being lifted. I think for the better part of 20 years, people thought they could go to a casino and always 100% of the time get a straight up game. And I can promise you that over the last 20 years, that hasn't really been true.
Yeah.
Like some degree of cheating has always taken place. And there's certain types of cheating that are like really difficult to police and catch, which is why you actually need good, strong regs in every single pool.
Yeah. Because
they know what to look for, right? Like the way that I caught the guy in our game was, it was a couple things. We were playing so I played with him briefly the night before for like 90 minutes. And this wild fucking hand happened, which I should have known instantly then that it was a high probability that something was not on the up and up. But I feel like Adam Scheffner. Like I'm getting a bunch of texts and I just want to make sure that they're not correlated to this. Like shut the fuck up. But yeah, so I probably should have known something, and I did suspect something for what it's worth, but like, there's a big gap between being suspicious and actually having conviction that somebody's cheating. So basically this hand happens where and this made it so much better too, or so much easier for him to get away with it. The GOAT was in the game and he was quite a few McAllens deep.
Okay.
Throwing a bit of a party. And so my man in the 2 seat opens under the gun, the goat 3-bets the button. I cold 4-bet king queen with the queen of spades. He cold calls my 4-bet from under the gun. And we're like 100K effective. Goat folds. Comes king 9, 4, all spades. Obviously, I'm c-betting, but it's still relatively small. So we're playing 1-1. So it went like 300, 1,000, 4,000 cold calls. So there's like, call it 9,000 in the pot. So I bet like 2,200 call. Turn like offsuit 3. I go like half. So like, I don't know, call it 5,500, 6K, something like that. Relatively smallish, right? Call. River offsuit 9. And I don't know why I didn't bet, but like something felt wrong. And I think it was that my experience with him in the past was when hands go to showdown, I had never seen him lose. Right? So my inclination was like, well, what ends up happening when you bet here is he just always folds or has a better hand somehow. Because at showdown, like I just don't ever see him call and lose. Yeah. So for whatever reason, instinctually, like I just check. 3x pot.
Jesus.
I've never seen the 3x pot. Like, I don't know how to describe this guy to you, but like he's just like a very happy, fat, 55-year-old man who doesn't look like he could spell poker backwards. You know?
And then he just pulls the 3x pot.
And it's like he hits me with the 3x pot on the end, and it's like I know he's not good, so like what the fuck is this? And I'm running through all the scenarios, and it's like he would just it would just have to be like only pocket 4s, and then it plays this way. It's like he never has a 9. There's literally 0 9s.
Yeah.
I blocked
unless
there was like so the 9 of spades was out, the 9 of hearts was out. I had the king of diamonds, king of spades. So there was like literally one combo of king 9 suited, but also so improbable to cold call 4-bet.
Yeah,
and
it's
like
reaching.
Right. So it's like he just never has a 9. He never has a full house. He would have to 3x pot with a flush when I could just have pocket kings. This seems fucking insane. So I call because of course my hand is like a really good call here.
Yeah.
He just shows red 9-7 offsuit.
All right, so can I play devil's advocate here? His method.
Good luck, sir.
What else is there?
He cold called a 4-bet with 9-7 off. Go on.
So his method of cheating would have to do with something with him knowing what's still left in the deck. Because knowing the whole cards, how does that help you? Like
it doesn't matter.
It's a small gamble for a huge payoff.
Yeah, what Berkey was saying is he bets small on flop and turn. So he's just able to peel. Like he's like he knows he only has one pair, so he doesn't put him in a bad situation really. If he can, especially when he's betting 3x pot on the river.
Yeah, if I potted turn, he would just fold.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right, and that had been my experience with him. Right, like you go for these big bets, he just casually folds, but he rivered so many big hands, and now looking back, it all makes perfect fucking sense.
Yeah.
He knows how live or not live he is. So he doesn't take bad gambles. He always took good gambles, right? It was always like he rivers a fucking gut shot versus like a nutted hand that gave him too good of a price, or he like rivers a pair versus somebody who's like rifling it off on a gutty or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he just knows. He's
knows. Just like constantly taking what looks to be wild gambles pre-flop, flop, and turn in order to get paid huge on the river.
Yeah.
Right? And
that makes so much sense when you don't have to pay any rivers.
Exactly.
It's when you don't pay any rivers, it doesn't matter.
This is the thing. If you got to play every river decision of your career perfectly, it would not matter one bit. Maybe I'm out on a limb saying this, but I really don't think I am. It would not matter one bit how you got to that river.
Yeah.
It wouldn't matter how much money you invested to get there over the aggregate, right? All that would matter is that you're not like that you leave yourself win rate to make on the end.
Information, meaning you knew what your opponent had.
If you were able to play every single river decision absolutely perfectly, how you got to that river probably would not matter much.
Yeah, because you can pull off some pretty crazy bluffs now.
Not just bluffs, but max value
to the fullest. Like you know exactly what your opponent has, so you know exactly how much they're going to call or not call.
Right. And that's the game when you're cheating this way. And the way that they get caught is getting too greedy.
Imagine having a good hand and being out of position. I check. And you know he has garbage, you know?
Yeah.
You just check to him and let him bluff it off.
Right, and you never have to worry about getting drilled because like if he just like checks back a gutty and makes the nuts, you just like check fold middle two.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Whatever, it doesn't matter.
You just don't. You never get fucked.
The other way that these guys were getting away with this, and this is actually really sharp, is they would often play late and short.
Yeah.
So they already have the whale appearance, then they give the same sort of action that you would anticipate a 10th chair type of player to give, but it's four-handed.
So they're getting in more hands,
more opportunities.
More hands, less of an onus to be folding bad hands.
Yep, you see more rivers.
If I'm playing four-handed and this guy has 9-7 off, I'm still miffed because it's a 4-bet pot. But it's like if he
looks like he's gonna gamble like that, because people, it's four-handed.
Like
gambling
if the
happens.
roles were reversed, where like Goat opened under the gun, he 3-bet the button and I cold forward, and he showed up with 9-7 off,
that'd be fine.
I'd be like, okay, whatever. And especially if we were in a four-handed game, I would just be like, whatever. So the other thing about this guy, he would choose the 100-100 game with all pros over the 100-200 game with all recs. And the biggest reason was because we assign seats, like we draw for seats, but that game starts a little bit later and you can kind of come in whenever you want. He would just come in when he had the 1 and the 2 seat. Right?
So he would just
and we were
out.
obviously, and he was like the only rec in the game, so we would bend a lot more to him too. So if it was like, if he like wanted to move over or whatever, nobody was going to say a word, you know? So
that's so smart.
Obviously, like super telltale signs.
Yeah.
And then so after that hand, I was already kind of miffed. The next day I start the game with him and I'm basically not even playing. I'm just hawk-eyeing him the whole time. A couple hands at Showdown were like really weird to me. And I'm just like, something is definitely not right. So I just start watching him. I watch him for an hour and a half straight. And he had the same exact routine every single hand that he played. And what I hadn't noticed before, I noticed he had earbuds in, but I didn't think much of it because it's like, even though nobody in our games listens to music, it's like, whatever. Maybe he just, he's Armenian. Maybe he doesn't care for fucking Miley Cyrus and Taylor Swift playing in the background all the time. No big deal. But he had his AirPod case on the table next to his chips. And then he had a phone on the rail on the other side of his chips. And I didn't notice, right? Here's an image of it. I didn't notice because like putting your phone on the rail is not that strange, especially in our game. Yeah. It's no big deal. He never once moved it from that spot. Even when he went to the bathroom, like it would often just stay there.
That's sick.
Right? So
he had the perfect shot and he didn't want to screw it up.
Yeah, I think so. And what he was doing was, and I don't know exactly how this would work its way in unless he's just like totally not sharp at poker and was getting fed strategy info as well. But he'd get dealt his 2 cards and he would cap them immediately, right? Then when it was his turn, he would uncap them, look at them, and if he wanted to play them, he would then pull them to the side now long ways. So initially he would look at them the Lamanna style, if you will, right? And then if he was going to play, after looking at them like that, he would pull them to the rail, flash them to his phone, bring them back and cap them.
Just to make sure that...
I don't know why he did it, but that was how I really caught on. Because I was like, oh my God. Like, I started to pay attention. I was like, he folds 100% of the time that he doesn't pull the cards back to the phone, and he plays 100% of the time that he does.
Well, whoever's feeding him information needs to know his whole cards.
He's supposed to get... Right? They're supposed to get it off the pitch.
No, but yeah, maybe, but like they shouldn't care about his whole cards. All they're doing is saying seat 1 has king queen with the queen of spades. Seat 2 has X, Y, and Z.
But that would make sense if he's getting fed strategy information,
right? If he's actually getting told how to play the hands, now that's a different story. So finally, when it was all said and done, obviously we couldn't come out and accuse him, but we basically forced everybody to quit because I was just too certain. I was like, I'm for sure. Also, he was winning 300,000 in a 100-100 game. My record, and I'm the most volatile big bet player in that game by a long shot. Like my record in 100-100 probably won't get broken. It was like 177,000. And that's like with straddles and stuff. This game is absolutely only 1-1. Like it's the feeder game. We're not allowed to do any of the fancy stuff.
And he just smashes.
He's winning like 330.
Jesus.
Right? Just an impossible number.
My God.
So like we force a break around it. And we obviously couldn't accuse him, but he kind of caught on eventually and confronted us. And we're like, we'll tell you what, like, we're not comfortable with you having earphones in and your devices on the table and stuff like that.
You guys actually had this conversation with him?
Yeah. So
he's trying to get it back in the game. And he thinks that he wants to make it look like that he's done nothing wrong. So he's going to continue to like argue, right?
Right. So we're like, if you don't have any earbuds in and you keep all your devices off the table and you're willing to sit in the 5 seat, then we'll have you back.
Yeah.
And he called us a bunch of pussies.
That's fucking great.
He just goes, "You fucking pussies! You can't handle me winning all the time."
That's fucking great.
So it's like,
what a great reaction.
And it's like he's threatening, legal action against us for discriminating, whatever. Like all the ways that
yeah, somebody's cheating.
The fastest way to know that somebody's lying to you or cheating or doing something nefarious is whenever they start to like call upon the law that they clearly don't understand.
Well, it's backwards. It doesn't make sense, right? Like, if I'm making $300,000 or however many thousands of dollars, like, I will sit there shirtless.
Yeah.
With no, like, if I'm winning that kind of money, like, sure, I'll do whatever the fuck you want.
Yeah, it's like, who do I have to jerk off to get back into this game? Like, whatever. So it's funny, like, because he was so close to the deckmate, the way that we knew that like cheating could exist was getting a deckmate rigged.
Yeah.
And there's a USB port. I probably shouldn't. Well, whatever. It's public. But basically, there's an open USB port on deckmates.
Yeah.
And if you're sly, you can like sneak in a USB stick that has the hack on it, and then get the cards. So he went to the bathroom, and we're like under the fucking table. We're like crawling around on the ground, like looking to see if the USB port is like plugged with something.
Or blocked.
And credit to the casinos, they actually like block it off now.
Okay.
Which is super sharp.
Yeah.
But like we had high suspicion, it's just like it's this weird line to toe where you can't just come out and accuse people.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's a big red scarlet letter to put on somebody without concrete proof. But like objectively speaking, it's hard to sit there, or I guess subjectively speaking, even though it feels objective, it's hard to sit there and think that like this is all on the up and up.
Mm-hmm.
And then I hear stories of what's happening elsewhere. So what was happening in some of the other big games around town, like all of the guys that are playing these stakes, like we're all sharing information back and forth, and we're all sharing photos, and there's so much overlap and consistency through these stories. Where this all originated was 18 months ago in the PCA 2023. A few players were playing shorthanded with a couple of these. I believe one guy was Korean, but he may have been from Uzbekistan.
Okay.
And the other guy was Russian. Came to be believed that they were working together. And man, I don't have all of the hands on me now, but like seeing the way that they're playing out, it's the type, like they were good at it. Right? Because like you don't have to cold call 4-bet with 9-7 off. You can take one off.
Yeah, you can just play the hands that don't look like you're
right.
cheating.
You can lose a couple at showdown.
Yeah.
That's the big thing that is so silly.
Yeah.
Is the inability to lose at showdown. I think people like that aren't sharp think that that's something that could just occur in a short window.
Imagine not losing like let's say in your game to be exact, like imagine it's not like losing a 50K pot immediately just to like throw it.
Of course.
Like here you go, guy. Like just lose a bunch immediately and like whatever.
Or like find spots to be all in pre-river where you're close in equity, like whatever. You just run it as much as you can because you're stealing on the back end.
Yeah, you just put a little more gamble in it because you're already 100%, so you can lower it down a little bit.
Right. So yeah, thanks Noodles. He confirmed that Australia does use the shoe. That's the only place I've ever seen them use the shoe.
Okay.
Was the Aussie Millions. But anyway, going back to my story, these other guys in the Bahamas, they were like pretty sharp because the hand histories that I were reading, it's like something's off, but they're the types of hands that have you just driving around in the middle of the desert asking yourself like, am I being cheated? You know what I mean? Because like they're just believable enough to chalk it all up to variance. But when you string them all together, it's like, how can this run happen?
Mm-hmm.
And I know this feeling because I've played enough sketchy app games, some of which I know now in hindsight were definitely cheated, other of which in hindsight, like I'm pretty confident we're on the up and up. But I had the same feeling across the board for both. I would go on these like 400-500 hand samples where the entire world feels like it's conspiring against you and people are literally just playing fucking perfectly. And it's like, okay, well, am I being cheated? Like, are they colluding? Am I being RTA'd? Like, I don't know what's happening, but like something just does not feel right here.
It really sucks on app games because at least like in person you get to look at something. Well, like outside of like just
you're spot on, because what gets them in the game is that they're the VIP that you pull a 10th chair up for. Mm-hmm. What makes you quickly accuse them is when they just cannot lose.
Exactly.
It's like, okay, well, I'll accept that somebody who looks like a fish turns out to be a killer, can't lose. But when you look like a fish and play like a fish and can't lose, you're fucking cheating me, bro. You're fucking cheating for sure. Yeah. You know? So going back to all of this bigger picture, kind of like what the message is that I want to get out is, number one, be aware that this collective is out there, right? You know, I don't want to create any level of stereotyping or xenophobia or anything along those lines, but you know, just be aware that what we understand to be true right now is it seems to be a group that is largely a large concentration of Russians, Koreans, people from Uzbekistan, you know, and the sort. But most importantly, it's not about their nationality. It's that they look very, very much like VIPs. Just, you know, be weary of a VIP who literally never loses at Showdown. And then on top of that, be weary of people who have any sort of trinkets, devices, whatever the case may be, on the table while demonstrating this sort of behavior. And it's such a weird slippery slope I feel like I'm going down, because I don't want the game to get over policed.
Yeah, it's kind of weird because it's like, what do you even do if something like that, like if you see something like that? Like,
personally,
what's
like,
your next step?
I would just alert regs and quit the game.
Yeah,
that's just me. Like, that's exactly what I did in this spot.
And that's what you're supposed
I
to
alerted everybody that mattered, you know, from the game runners to the regs in the game to even like basically anybody that that would be able to take the information and utilize it, right? And then from there, it's like, do as you wish, but these are my suggestions.
Quick question: the guy that you guys confronted, have you seen him back?
No.
Okay.
No. Think he's in LA. If I had to guess, pretty sure that's his old stomping grounds. There's another guy local here that I played with a fair amount. Same thing, like was accused not accused, but like basically was asked to have his sunglasses removed from the 50K WSOP event, and he went from like chip leading to just out.
And I understand that you guys don't want to play with this guy, but if he steps foot back in this room, is the establishment also saying that he's not allowed to play there?
It's a great question, because our game's semi-private, so it's our discretion, I guess.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I
don't know what would happen if he went to play a public game.
I don't know who Tim O'Donoghue is, but he says these guys always lose huge and get regs to play bigger, then turn on God mode. They've been at Commerce recently. They were at Commerce last night, and the regs wouldn't tell people or quit them because they lost 50K once, confirmed in LA.
Oh my God. Shout out to Tim Donahue. That sentence is literally every reg that is wet behind the ears. And I don't mean that as an insult. Apologies to anybody who's lost money to these guys that doesn't want to see the reality for what it is. But like, even guys in our game, I would tell them very blatantly, like, look, this is what I think is happening. We already have confirmation that this is happening in other places. Like, this guy hasn't lost a fucking pot at Showdown since yada, yada, yada. And immediately somebody would chime in and be like, no, I beat him out of 20K yesterday. And it's like, that qualifying statement dismisses the accusations, but it's not the full story. It's like, maybe you did beat him out of 20K, but how? Was it ever on a river decision, right? Was it ever an instance where perhaps he didn't have perfect information of your cards? Was it ever an instance where, you know, somebody came or somebody left and now all of a sudden he wasn't in the 1 or 2 seat any longer? Like, there are so many variables that are necessary for this cheating to occur that, maybe you got him a couple of times. Maybe you were the benefactor of neutralizing his scheme every now and again, or maybe he just dumped
maybe he's
once in a while to get an alibi.
Maybe he did something smart.
right It's like, maybe he did something to get an alibi. But like, god damn it, man, don't be so naive. Like, you know, you have to be able to look past the idea that, well, we don't want to shut VIPs out of the game. It's like, Okay, Godspeed, man. I'd rather play with 7 regs every single day that I know are on the up and up.
Wait, hold on. This guy isn't a VIP if he's cheating.
I've never seen him lose. I played a hand with him like a year ago where I was literally circling the desert for like days, like just questioning what the fuck happened. He cold called a 5-bet. I 5-bet from the small blind. And he just cold called me from the big. And I had aces. And he had 8-6 suited. And then it came like 10-7-5 or something of that sort.
Mm-hmm.
I think like 10-7-5 or 10-7. I think 10-7-4 maybe.
It was double gutted.
Yeah, I think it was like 10-7-4.
Open-ended, double gutted, whatever.
I think it was like 10-7-4 turn 5. And we just like get it all in on the turn for like 100,000 each. And I'm just like, "Do you have 10s?" And he's like, "No, I have a straight." What?
What did you just say to me?
What? And I remember being so miffed for days. And it was like a running joke of like, "Oh yeah, you got by." It's like, it just never sat with me. It was just like, no. Like he cold called a 5-bet. With 8 fucking high. I'm like, yeah, he likes to gamble. And I'm like, wait, but does he? Because I couldn't he limped queens earlier. Like, does he like to gamble? There were so many things like now in hindsight looking back.
The limp queens hand, did anybody have anything good there?
I don't remember, man.
Yeah, that would be so interesting.
It was like a year and a half ago, but it was like we would get the showdown and he would show up in like limp pots or single raise pots where he chose not to 3-bet, and he would just have fucking monsters.
Yeah, it'd be so interesting if somebody just had like aces in the spot.
I'm texting everybody. This was like a year and a half ago. I'm texting them. I'm like, what's the deal with this guy? They're like, he's sick. I'm like, buddy, are you out of your mind? Like, he's the tightest fucking guy I've ever seen.
He just wins that fucking showdown.
I was so positive that he was just like this covert nit. I'm like, he's like limp calling with aces. What are you talking about? And then he beats me, and then he like loses his mind out of the blue and cold calls a 5-bet with 8 high. I'm just like, okay, like I guess you guys were right. Like he just fucking went off. And then all of a sudden, like a year and a half later, I'm like, no. I remember that hand now. And now the 9-7. And like, I still haven't seen you fucking lose at Showdown, man. Like, this is not okay. This is definitely not on the up and up.
How long has he been in your game for?
So the time I played with him a year and a half ago was the only time I'd ever played with him prior.
Okay.
But I guess he had played maybe a half dozen times. Mm-hmm. And the thing is everybody continually vouched for him, saying like, no, I've seen him go nuts. I've seen him lose infinite, which maybe he did. Yeah. Maybe there were times that he didn't get the 1 and 2 seat. Maybe there were times that he just threw a party because he fucking tilted it off. Whatever the case may be, I don't know.
Or he got fed the wrong information.
Or they were just being smart. Like, that's just smart.
Yeah, maybe he was smarter then.
That was just smart. You just fucking, or he's just like this summer, he was just literally working off what he did in the past.
Honestly, it wasn't even dumb of him to not be smart this summer because he's not in the main game, so he's not being overseen by people who make decisions. And he's playing against a bunch of like high stakes regs.
Yeah, so everybody wants you to lose anyway.
Well, they just it's not even that. It's that they just come with the assumption, like there's a certain level of arrogance when there's that big of a discrepancy, that we'll get him back. You know what I mean? Like anybody can run good in the near term. Yeah. And so like when he goes on these hot streaks, everybody's just chalking it up to luck. Like there were 3 or 4 out of town pros that we were letting into that game that were like playing shorthanded with him after we had told him like, hey, we're pretty sure he's cheating. And they're like, no, he's not. No, he's definitely not. He's definitely not. And they're just like, they played shorthanded with him. They played, I think they played like a 24-hour session with him.
What?
Or 26 hours after. The reason they were shorthanded is because we all left the game.
They played 26 hours?
Something like that. And they got some of it back.
Okay.
They like, he was winning, I think at peak. I think they said at peak he was up like 430.
In 100.
100. I think they might have bumped it. Because once we all left and it became like their own game, I think they may have bumped it to either 1-2 or 1-2-4. But either way, obscene numbers.
Well, if you think about it, it makes sense that they might have got some back because they might have been tilting. Turn bets were bigger.
That's what I was about to say. not just that, but like as they get more shallow according to the blinds, more money gets front loaded.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, and now his strategy starts to break down a little bit. So I think they basically said they got like half back, and he ended up winning like 250 or 300.
Yeah, I mean that would make a lot of sense. Like if the action is front loaded, then he can't do nothing. Like there were probably many instances where it's just like small bet, peel. Please let me get there.
Yeah.
Like that was just probably the game plan for the most.
Especially
majority.
because like if you play with him enough, it becomes abundantly clear that if you go like big bet, he's just never in.
He's gonna fold. Yeah.
Unless he has the nuts.
Yes.
So you start to massage your strategy to string him along to the fucking street that he plays perfect. You're like, oh man, I got this guy figured out. I'm
funneling you guys.
I'm gonna string him along to the river, and then he's really gonna be fucked. And it's just like every time you have the nuts, he's just snap mucking, and every time that you're like third nuts, he's all in.
That's so good.
It's like, what the fuck is going on here, man? I'm just like so absolutely lost.
I really wonder if he like pulled any like psychopath bluffs, just like knowing, like, you know, somebody has like just know somebody has three third nuts or second nuts.
With dude, some of the times that he showed down 7 deuce, he had to have known the other person's cards.
Yeah,
literally, like he would get to river, like no pair, no draw, not playing it, like find ways to check call 7 deuce on like ace king queen, and then bluff river after like turn check.
That's strong.
You know what I mean? It would be like turn check, and then he's like 2x potting river. Fold and 7 deuce slammed down. Everyone thinks he's throwing a fucking party. It's like, oh man, this is gonna be great.
Yeah.
Somebody's asking for the Bahamas story, so I kind of already briefly spoke to it, but effectively what it was 2 people from this ring were playing shorthanded with 3 pros. I can't recall the stakes. I think they were playing 100, 200, and it was a public game. They played for many hours, and eventually one pro ended up playing one of them heads up, I believe, if I recall correctly. And you know, between the 2 of them, they just took like hundreds and hundreds of thousands out of this game.
Crazy.
Didn't take very long before the pros kind of started talking to each other. They had suspicions that they were being cheated. They started to reverse engineer some things. There were no pictures from that game, unfortunately, but there were tales of, you know, devices being on the table. As I mentioned, there was another instance of a player in the Triton event who was asked to have his jewelry removed. He declined, as far as I understand, and was just asked to be eliminated from the event.
That's sick.
So the thoughts were that he had a camera in his ring.
So he didn't just he didn't come to the conclusion that he should just take his fucking jewelry off, or he's going to lose the buy-in?
Well, I think he was just protesting, like, no, I'm not going to do that, which is not that unreasonable of a thing to do. Like, no, I'm not going to take my ring off. Like,
and they were like, fuck that.
And they were like, okay, well, then you're out of the tournament.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's like hard to...
They had just...
Maybe you know what? This also could be a detail that I got wrong, because I'm going off of a lot of people speaking in a forum.
They might have just took a hard stance on, like, the second he said, no, I'm not taking it off. They're like, okay, you can't play the tournament, and that's it.
Yeah, or he
away.
may have just said, like, okay, eventually took it off, played the rest of the event, and didn't cash, or disappeared, or whatever. But, like, just the protest of, no, I'm not taking off my ring is kind of an indication in and of itself.
Yeah, I mean,
that something may have occurred.
I could definitely see them taking a hard stance the second after they say no, and there's no going back after that, you know?
Right. Another thing that everybody needs to be concerned about now that so many different variants of stand-up are becoming popular, and this is very important for private games, because the rules are looser as far as like what you're able to play from your variant standpoint, but eventually they're going to get into the public game, so it'll become very critical there too, particularly with like the progressive stand-up where you're winning bounties. So every pot you win is a new stand-up chip. You have to be incredibly careful about collusion in those games. So I know one particular instance was a shorthanded game where maybe like half the players in the game were not speaking English, and that's just like not a good spot to be in if you're not speaking the native language.
Imagine sitting there.
Right, like you're just playing a progressive stand-up game where, you know, half the table is speaking a foreign language to you, and you know they may not be cheating, but also like they just very well may be.
Yeah.
So you have to be very careful, especially because the game incentivizes a lot of freestyling and a lot of off-the-cuff play, so you will see a lot of cold calling of 3-bets and things of that nature. But what ends up happening is it's a colluder's dream come true.
Yeah.
Because you can just start setting up a lot of weird squeezes, a lot of weird sandwiching, just a ton of stuff to be on the lookout for. But this stuff has existed since the dawn of time. Like when it comes to live poker, collusion, card sharing, signaling, that type of shit, always the way that we're most susceptible to being cheated.
It just amplifies their win rate kind of in this type of situation.
This type of situation
it incentivizes more.
With the camera, yes. With the squeezing and the colluding and stuff like that.
Exactly.
With the actual camera that we're discussing, this is just flawless. Right?
Yeah.
So this is a glitch in the system. We need to correct the deal. So just to reiterate, we absolutely have to go to an Australian/Euro style deal. I don't know who can make this change. And I don't know what sort of pressure we need to apply. Honestly, this may be the first thing that GG could have a heavy hand in when it comes to influencing the WSOP.
That would be strong.
They want the WSOP to be their EPT.
Yeah.
If they really want to come out the gate and make an impression with the community that, hey, look, we're here to be the biggest brand that's making the biggest impact, and we want you guys to have faith in us, they could make the statement and say, like, we are going to train dealers to do the European style pitch.
That would be so strong, honestly, and it would get garner a lot of goodwill. Like, if you think about it, like, it started off a great relationship.
Yeah.
You know, like, they just pay for training for X amount of time, like, before the series.
Like I said, even if it's only in the high rollers, or like 5Ks and above, maybe you implement it like three tables down.
It kind of sucks because, like,
even if you just did in the money, you got a wave of dealers that all could deal that way. Like,
yeah, it kind of sucks because, like, in high rollers, that's where you're going to sniff it out. You're not going to sniff it out at the lower buy-ins.
Right.
Like, it's like there's no sleuths really.
We were talking about the main event and like how much somebody like this would be able to steal in win rate throughout the main event.
Yeah. Infinite.
And I was very dismissive of it. I was like, man, if there's one person in the field doing this, like, it ain't going to be that big of a deal. That guy might just win the fucking tournament.
It's infinite.
He might just win the tournament.
You're so deep. It's infinite. Like, you can just.
That's what I mean. Like, you may just win the fucking tournament.
Yeah, you can just do so many things. You get so fucking creative in the main event.
Go to every river, right? I mean, just don't put your chips in the middle.
I mean, like, it's so like.
It would be weird once you started playing on TV because, like, you would be pretty incentivized to start passing on flips.
And then people
and kind of even passing on just all-in spots. Period.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like,
so but that's so impossible to do in a tournament. Like, imagine you're chip leader and like. Guy jams 20 with ace queen and you have like ace king off and you just pass, you know, because like insane. Why risk 20% of your chips?
Yeah, I have 100% accuracy later on.
Yeah,
I could just pass in the spot.
And like you're just never RFIing. You're just like limping and keeping putts uber small, like one blind on every street, trying to get the river. Like, it would be a lot harder to navigate in a tournament because the stack's shallow.
Yeah, but you just get the river and you just like 4x all hit every time.
But even just the compounding effect of knowing the equity of your hand versus your opponent's would be worth a lot. The counter to that is you wouldn't get the 1 or 2 seat very often.
That's true.
You would only get it a fair amount of the time. So you would be flying blind maybe 70% of the tournament, 65% of the tournament, something like that.
Yeah, that's true.
But, you know, it's not like the 3 seat, the 4 seat, the 5 seat don't catch any of the cards. It still functions. Yeah. It just doesn't have the 360 degree radius. You know, it's more siloed, I think.
So you'll be able to see some hands.
You'll always be able to get some information.
Exactly. So
it doesn't matter how limiting. So now all of a sudden, like, you're in the 5 and you're only playing pots against your neighbor. You know, like you're just trying to play out of position pots versus the 6 and 7 seed as much as humanly possible.
That's pretty sick.
It's a weird world. But yeah, I mean, I wanted to basically do a public service announcement on this because, look, I'm not able to give that much information. Like, I can't divulge pictures of these guys for you to look out for in casinos. Like, that's on gaming. They should do that. Like, let them publish these photos. You know, I don't want to get my kneecaps broken. You know, I'm not trying to put myself in harm's way. I'm happy to pass this along privately to as many people as possible. Hopefully some people start posting this anonymously on threads, on Twitter, on, you know, whoever has anonymous accounts, like, get them out there, I guess. So I highly encourage people to start speculating in public arenas as much as possible. But the most important thing here is the methodology, right? It's not so much that it's not so much identifying the people that are out there doing it necessarily, because they can be replaced.
It's how to prevent it.
Yeah, it's how to prevent it. It's how to look for these types of actions, I guess, in the future. again, it starts with if it's too good to be true, it probably is. Like your antenna should already be up. Yeah, it's kind of thing.
It's so crazy to think about how long they could have been doing this for. If you really think about it, because like I can think about times in 2012 where this guy, when I told the story before, but they were basically using a cell phone lookalike device and they put it in front of the deck of cards. They had a
but that's a home game.
Yes.
That's very important to qualify, though, because I think a lot of people get confused. You have to get a deck in the game in order to use not RFID, infrared.
Yes, I'm just saying.
I understand. I'm not trying to correct you specifically. I'm just trying to illuminate to the audience that there's a huge difference in a lot of the things that people will show you and act as though this is a risk. That's not actually a risk. So in the past, we didn't care about people having their phones on the rail because, like, even when we were dissecting the Robbie thing, we're like, who cares about the water bottle? What the fuck could it do?
Yeah.
It can't read RFID. And there's no way she got an infrared deck into the game, right? So we knew that it wasn't deck manipulation or anything along those lines. We didn't think about it. But now...
It would have been a more simple method.
Right. The obvious breach of security here is actually the dealer's pitch.
Yes. My point was, though, the RFID thing is actually infrared thing is more advanced than fucking putting a pinhole camera.
Way more.
So, like, how... I could see this happening for, like, what... 7 to 10 years now.
I mean, there's been a lot of stories.
Think about it.
There's been a ton of stories of home games that have been cheated in some way, shape, or form or another, and a lot of it is, the infrared deck gets in the game because the people running the game have control over the decks.
Yeah. To be fair, I've never heard this cheating method. Actually, this is the first time I've ever heard of this.
So this is coming into the series. We had already suspected 3 or 4 people. One of them was. Whatever. I don't want to get into it. I don't want to name names. It just doesn't seem right. But
don't do it.
In any event, like basically they had been soft banned from all rooms around town. So we were already on high alert that this method existed. And then like I started to familiarize myself with the Bahama story, which had happened a year prior. And it's like, okay, so maybe this is happening a little bit more frequently than we think. Once I knew that guy was cheating me once I strongly suspected we were being cheated, all it took was saying to another reg in the game, hey, I think we're being cheated. And he's like, oh, you think he has a whole card cam? Right? Because
so
now...
He was already on that wavelength.
Well, now as new methods arise and we become privy to them, they become the most obvious ones to us, right? So with Robbie, we were trying to go down the Postle rabbit hole of how she could have possibly cheated that spot, right? And it's like, oh, well... Maybe the back room is corrupt. Maybe the stream security is flawed. And all those things to some degree did end up proving to be true. However, it's almost I don't want to say it's impossible, but it's highly unlikely that if that hand were cheated, that's how she went about it.
Yeah.
It's infinitely more probable that like Rip was just catching cards off the pitch and signaling to her, and the signal was a binary one of thumbs up, thumbs down,
just something like that.
Something along those lines. Because like maybe he doesn't know her cards, but he knows Garrett's cards, and he's just like, well, he has 9 high, thumbs up, go nuts.
Yeah.
Because she's actively putting chips in the middle, that type of thing. Again, speculation, don't really know, and I'm sure there's a ton of other methods that we're unaware of that people are utilizing, right? Yeah. Different collusion methods, different. That's why I bring up the stand-up game and the progressive. Like, if you notice that people who are not accustomed to playing your game, right? Like we had a big influx of out-of-towners this summer, and a lot of them suddenly just wanted to play progressive. And it's like, okay, well, maybe you just come from games that like often play progressive. But also like if there's a cluster of you in the same game, I don't want to play progressive anymore. That kind of thing. Because it's like...
You don't trust them.
I don't trust that there isn't some level of collusion taking place there. Like the first time that I get squeezed in a 4-bet pot between 2 people that came to the game together, like I'm gonna have a real concern.
Yeah, like you play with 30 people or whatever the amount is normally that you trust. You have a certain level of trust that, that everything's on the up and up, and then you just watch Oaken play, so you know he's not cheating.
Right. Right. Exactly. Exactly. Welcome back, Oaken. So yeah, like I think again, it's always trying to stay ahead of the methods that are being used. Like Same thing with Landon. Like, one of the more common things that we had heard were the deck mates were rigged. Yeah. So when he thinks he's being cheated in Texas, first thing he jumps to is like, oh, they probably had access to the deck mate. And everybody was jumping through hoops. And to this day, I think, like, there were poker room managers down there that were suspect of, perhaps there being higher management involved or dealers involved or whatever the case may be. And now looking back on it, it's almost certain that these guys were just using a pinhole camera.
Yeah, just nobody's involved.
Right? You play a 4-card game where knowing hole cards is worth infinite, and play shorthanded versus a bunch of young and cocky pros who are willing to dust off $500,000 to you.
Yeah.
This is the end result. Right? And then
Makes
just
a lot of
vanish.
sense, man.
Yeah, and then just vanish. And it's like, these are the guys that get recruited to private games, so it becomes even easier to implement this moving forward, because all you have to do is play the role of lovable loser.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and it's even easier when you have a whole bunch of pros with egos.
Not just that, but if there's two of you, if you have a partner and you're both VIP-ish, you're both recreational, and one of you dumps every time, not consistently, but like you take turns, right? Yeah. Like, I'm gonna play the role of the loser tonight.
Yep.
And it just works out that, like, sure, the two of you never ever lose together. But
one guy loses $30,000, the other guy wins $100,000 every night.
And it's always going to be in this outlandish manner where both of them just look like really volatile players. You know how long they're going to get away with that before somebody goes, I've never seen them both lose in a night before.
Yeah, no, it would take a long time.
And when somebody does say that, the response is going to be, I never saw both of them win in a night either. And it's just going to get dismissed, right?
Yeah.
Because people are going to convince themselves, like, oh, these two are just breaking even when it's all said and done.
Yeah.
But they're not. They're just trimming. They're skimming off the top instead of
smart.
Yeah, they're shearing instead of skinning.
It's basically like the sports betting people that just tell people half their clients to bet one side and half to bet the other.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah. Same type of shit. Talking about cheating though, Robbie J. Lou put out a tweet the other day.
No.
Oh, no.
Well, go ahead.
All right.
Go. No, that wasn't what I was going to say. No, the one we got in our chat was doctored.
It was doctored?
Yeah, the actual tweet she put out was, poker's a very easy game. All you have to do is bluff catch at the right times or fold at the right time.
Yo, it's so funny.
I
not only fell for it, right? I didn't read it because I knew it was the first one.
Yeah.
So I just took the first one because she has like 4 out there.
Yeah.
So I just took the first one and sent it. That's fucking hilarious that it's doctored.
Yeah, the one that got sent to our chat is, poker's so easy. All you have to do is cheat. Go ahead, come at me.
That is so good.
Melissa sent it. How could you not know that it was a scam?
I didn't know it was.
Come on, bro. This is the guy right here. This is the guy that they fucking get.
No, they don't get me.
Yeah, right on.
No, so listen,
they don't get you.
So the cheating situation in Jersey that happened, that the game that we actually dealt and ran basically. One day I was like, yo, he always sits there, and they bring a fucking dealer.
Right.
We're getting cheated.
You guys deserve what you got.
R.I.P. Jojo, but he's like, bro, you think so? Bro, they cheating us? Bro, they cheat. And it was just like, man, we're getting cheated.
They're
and
fucking cheating you.
We obviously let him come for the next 2 more times. Had to make sure.
Well, that was like the other thing is we all were like considering, like, should we
just let it run?
Like, invite him back and then confirm it?
Yeah.
And it's like, well, who wants to lose the money in the process of confirming that, like, all for naught, right?
Yeah, it doesn't even matter.
Maybe if we could coordinate with gaming where they're like, okay, we're going to set this up, where this could be a big sting operation. It's like, they don't give a fuck, man.
Well, the thing is, like, if you got gaming, then you get to keep the money. So
right.
So that would be actually really cool, stuff like that. But, like, again, they don't care. Like, if they only get caught when they go to the pits.
Right.
Literally. It does, because they have an interest.
The difference between getting caught in a poker room and getting caught in the blackjack table is like literally the difference between jail time and we just don't want your business.
Yeah, it's so crazy because like they watch them after they're cheating at the blackjack table. They just watch them mosey on over to the poker and like, oh, they're cheating there too.
Yeah,
and,
exactly.
It's crazy.
That's exactly true.
It's unfortunate that we don't have any type of security.
That's really the biggest downside of all of this, I think, is that the corrective action to make this go away is easy in theory.
Yeah.
Right? It's a very simple tactical solution. Like, just have the dealers deal differently. Mm-hmm. That's very easy, right? Yeah. Same way that we taught them a different method of cutting so that they couldn't be mechanics any longer. Stuff like these are very easy adjustments, but they're very challenging to implement at scale. It's very challenging to retrain 10,000 dealers worldwide, right? but it's a necessary evil. Like we even if we just start with 100 dealers this year and then a couple hundred the following year, like eventually in the next 5 years or so, this won't be a problem any longer. Now, granted, new methods may develop, but the beauty of live is that it's very slow. So cheating is always incentivized because it's a game that deals around money.
Yeah.
But the fact that you can't really do it at scale because you're one tabling in a game that's only going to deal 25 hands an hour does still make it a pretty protected environment. So like the big takeaways here, like at the final rundown of all this is, don't be afraid of live poker. Don't be fearful that your game is not on the up and up, but also don't be naive.
Yeah, take measures to protect yourself.
Keep your eyes open, police your game, speak with other regs, just, double, triple check things, make sure that everything's on the up and up. Pay attention to people with devices on the rail that are also wearing headphones. And look, to the operators out there, this is by no means a call to arms to ban all technology. I really hate that this conversation is taking place with Savage of should we just eliminate phones in the poker room altogether? It's very archaic. Live poker can be very draining and boring. Some of us are playing app games. Some of us are watching movies or TV or playing listening to music. Yeah, it's there's a million different things going on. And yeah, sure. I think the game would be more engaging also if we didn't have all these distractions. But we do. And we're programmed to at this point. So you can't stuff the genie back in the bottle. It's just much more important to me to create a healthy gaming environment otherwise that, handles certain protocols to ensure that everything's on the up and up, right? Yeah. Don't have deckmate 2s, have deckmate 1s instead. Or if you do have a deckmate 2, make sure that patch is in place so that they can't be hacked. Change the dealing protocol. Have gaming have a slightly heavier hand when it comes to punishment for this type of stuff. That's the big thing. If we get cheated, what's our recourse, right? Right now, I don't know what. I mean,
so it's just you'd have to catch them red-handed, and you'll never do that.
But the cameras
really.
Might, and the cameras legit might catch these guys red-handed.
What do you mean? Just share? You see the screen share on the phone
or
something?
Just, something.
Most
right?
people. If they're doing this at scale, I'm sure they all have privacy screens.
I'm just saying, the cameras might catch things that the naked eye doesn't.
Yeah.
Right.
Sure.
And yeah, I don't know. But anyway, point being is, I just want everybody to be on the lookout. Pay attention. If nothing else, this is a reminder to pay a lot closer attention to the games that you're in. Nothing bad will come from that. Worst case, you become a better poker player. Best case, you don't get cheated, right? So I think all of these things, make it a lot easier to trust the live games that you're playing. And again, we'll talk about this more later in the week. I believe Pads is going to join us. We're going to have a deeper discussion about the Wizard, the current state of online games, as well as the current state of live. I really do think poker is alive and well, but much like any industry, there's always going to be people who are trying to skirt the rules, trying to find ways to increase their bottom line at any cost. And it's just on us to kind of police that and be on the lookout. Really funny thing, Guapo typed in smash the like button, fam, and I actually watched it tick down 4 people. But I think they unliked and reliked to get the train going. Okay. So shout out to everybody who
that's funny.
Went ahead and smashed that like button. All right, let's shift gears a little bit. I have an in the muck hand, and then we'll get out of here. All right, I have a fun hand I played last week where I got quite a bit out of line. I ended up winning the pot, which is a good outcome, but I'm a little in the muck with my my flop and turn strategy. I feel like I put myself in a position where I basically had to get there, and that's just never that doesn't ever really feel like good strat.
You know what it sounds like?
What?
It sounds like you had a pinhole camera on the dealer.
No, if I did, I probably wouldn't have check raised the flop. That's for sure. So we start by opening Berkey aces under the gun, which is 5-4 suited for the listeners at home. We have 5-4 diamonds, open to 500, playing 100, 200 with a 200 ante. The hijack calls, the cutoff calls, and the button squeezes to 3,500. Folds back to me, I call, and we go heads up to a flop of King of Diamonds, 10 of Hearts, 5 of Spades. So we pretty much flopped the world here. Bottom pair, backdoor flush draw. Can't really see how we don't get all the money in. Now there's 8,300 in the pot. We're about 67,000 effective. So call it 8 SPR, give or take. We're deep. We're deep for a 3-bet pot. I check, and this is obviously going to be a range bet spot for the button. He chooses about 40% pot, $3,300. And I think this is one of my best bluffing candidates. I could be convinced that ace-5 suited would be better in choosing my bottom pairs, but I'm not so sure because I do think the button will have some queen-jack, and obviously he has ace-king and aces. I guess the argument for ace-5 over 5-4 is that you actually block aces and ace-king. The downside, I would say, would be that making 2-pair can be dirty.
But you do have a bottom pair trip draw.
You do have a bottom pair trip draw. That's not the debate. Obviously, that's why picking a 5 is a good check raise.
Mm-hmm.
It's more
the
so
most optimistic in the muck I've ever heard.
What are you talking about?
You said you flopped the world.
I did. I have bottom pair and a backdoor flush draw.
Yeah.
Okay.
Imagine if that 10 was a deuce. Oh my God. Never fucking folding. We're putting all the money in.
But it's actually better that it's a 10 because my call range interacts more with like double Broadway.
Yeah, okay.
Right? So if it's king 5 deuce, it's kind of hard to check raise.
It's true.
You're kind of repping like king X plus. Whereas here, it's like I can have a variety of things. I could have some queen jack. I could have some ace king.
Sure.
I could have some king 10 suited, some pocket 10s. Like I have a nice linear range of value. And the 5 serves us pretty well in a polar range, I think. So I like to check raise. I think I go 3.5x to 12.5. And he continues through a call. Now, this is where it gets a little bit weird. The turn's the queen of diamonds.
Ooh, spicy.
Which is exactly that, Conrad. It's exactly spicy.
Very, very spicy.
The SPR now is 1.5. So I could choose the geo size here, which I think is...
Wait, yes? Oh, I'm sorry, yeah.
Yeah, I could choose the geo size here, which I think is about half pot. It's exactly half pot, actually.
Yeah.
And I think that's okay. My problem is, I'm not sure... I for the life... I tanked for so long on the turn. I was like, I just don't know what hands call and then fold. I think it's only like Jack 10 of diamonds.
Yeah.
So it's like Jack 10 of diamonds, 10 9 of diamonds. And I was like, if those are the hands that I'm targeting to call and then fold, I'm pretty fucked here.
Doesn't sound like an ideal situation.
It seems pretty bad, right?
Yeah.
Now, of course, we do have value to support this bluff. We have ace jack. We have king queen. We still have king 10, pocket 10s. But imposition also has a fair distribution of these hands.
He has all of them, basically.
Yes, I was thinking too.
I don't think he's going to have a ton of ace jack.
Why?
I think ace jack suited is probably going to mix between call and squeeze.
Okay, yeah.
And I think ace jack off is probably going to mix between like squeeze and fold.
Makes sense.
Just based off of the action, like facing an under the gun open and then 2 callers. I don't think he can be really wide here with his squeezing range. So he'll have some ace jack, but not all.
Yeah.
And then I guess ace queen would probably be the biggest target that we want to shoot at, because he probably has all of that. I think ace queen's probably just too strong to do anything other than squeeze with. I could be wrong, but anyway, he probably has a lot of ace queen, which we could then bet versus. I don't know, man. I just felt like a little bit miffed at not knowing necessarily what to do and worrying that like ace 10 of diamonds or like jack 10 of diamonds just jams over my bet and then I have to call.
Yeah.
And I'm just dead. So I choose to check.
Is jamming out of the question here?
I think jamming is probably too much.
Yeah, I think it's too much.
I find myself in spots like this where it's like 1.2 SPR or 1.3 and I'm just like, fuck it. I'm going to make my decision real easy. I have equity.
Yeah, but we're like 1.5.
So it's kind of interesting because the other option is turning our hand kind of face up in a way. Like when we check call turn, and
that was the problem, was that I checked because I'm like, he doesn't always have to bet.
Yeah.
But then he bet, and I was like, I don't think I can shove this one.
Our hands is
and I don't think much of my range wants to play check call.
Yeah, I mean the hands that you're gonna have in your check call are gonna be like, I guess the hands like exactly what you have, maybe some jack and a pair, like Jack 10 yourself. Right. And stuff like that.
Exactly.
So it's just like you're really face up here, and it's
I wholeheartedly
really
agree with you. I mean, I could have like ace jack of diamonds.
Sure, but that's like
even still, what's the point? Yeah. What are we protecting? Yeah, I agree with you. I was really in the muck on the turn, and I think it's a byproduct of the flop, where in general, I think this hand serves me fine in a check raising range, and we'll see what the wizard says. Maybe it's too loose. But in general, I think hands like 5-4, 5-6 are pretty nice.
We're speaking flop, right?
Yeah, on the flop.
Yes.
I think they're pretty nice as check raises, but not when this turn card comes off.
No, I mean, when this turn card sucks.
Like when this turn, like if the turn's the deuce of diamonds, I have a very clear decision here. It's like I'm targeting ace jack, ace queen.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
And I could do that through a relatively small bet. So like I can go 2E, I can maybe even go slightly smaller, like B33.
Might even have some like hands like queen jack of hearts or stuff like that.
Right, yeah. So it's like I have a very clear target that I'm aiming at to deny equity to. And you know,
I'm such a nit. When you say ace jack, ace queen, I'm wondering how they find calls
on
when
the flop?
you raise on the flop.
They're drawing to the nuts.
What do you mean?
Can't fold a hand drawing to the nuts.
You fold hands going drawing to the nuts.
You're drawing to a gutty.
You're drawing to the nuts. Not just a gutty. You're drawing to the absolute stones. You cannot fold hands trying. I've said this 100 times.
I want your password for WSOP.
I said this 100 times, but you absolutely really need to learn heads up strategy. And I don't even know heads up strategy that well, but you just need to learn it like in a loose manner, because there are certain heuristics that you have to abide by in heads up because ranges are so wide. So like you can't fold obvious bluff catchers, and obvious bluff catchers are hands drawing to the nuts. Yeah. Right? So it's like that's just like first and foremost. And the same holds true here. It's like I'm an aggressive player, I'm going to have bluffs. Like ace jack, ace queen can never fold. But they can fold possibly on a lot of turns. Right? You want to have a call fold range. Ace queen, ace jack fits that nicely.
And this turn is not one that either one of those hands fold on.
So what put me in the muck was specifically this exact turn card, obviously. Like turns the queen of spades, I just check fold. Yep. That's a no-brainer. But I improved, but didn't improve. And what it made me realize is, going back to the flop, like where I think in theory this hand serves me pretty well, in practice it might be very bad, because the range that's c-betting might be a lot tighter than the range bet that's supposed to occur.
Okay.
Right? So he's supposed to have a range bet here, but he's also supposed to have like a bunch of like 10x. And
you're just saying he might just check all that
I think when it comes to squeezing, as opposed to just calling the button and going four ways, a lot of the hands that I'm expecting to be there might just not be.
Gotcha.
Might not be a lot of 10-9 suited. Might not be a lot of jack 10 suited here. Might not be a lot of queen jack, right? Yeah. Might not be any. Literally might not.
Then we're in a really shitty spot.
Literally might not be any, right? Like might not be any pocket nines.
Yeah. Okay.
Right? And there definitely aren't any pocket nines on the turn. That hand bet folds.
Of course.
Right? But it's like, I concern myself now that maybe my check raise on the flop no longer functions, which now leads me down a path where I'm really fucked on the turn.
Because it would just funnel them to nutted hands.
Right,
like,
which now I overcorrect by check calling.
Exactly.
And now I have a check call range, and that's great, but it's a very face-up weak range. So yeah, I was very in the muck on the turn. I think it may stem from the flop. We'll see what the wizard has to say. River was pretty inconsequential. So anyway, I check. He bets like 2/3 pot. I call. River ends up being the jack of diamonds. I jam. He has a trivial call with the straight, and I get lucky enough to scoop.
I wonder what happens on the, let's say, 6 of diamonds here.
Same.
You think you get called?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, my range is bad. I just look like I have a lot of like jack X type of hands. Yeah, that hand can't fold. He did nothing wrong. He played his hand very well. I'm sure the wizard is going to confirm that. So in looking at this, I haven't looked past the flop, but he so far is everything correct. He has a B40 spot, which is what he chose. So you can just take this number times 2 and you get the correct amount. So, okay. We're in there. I'm right, man.
We're fucking in there.
I'm right. 5x does the check raising.
Well, I mean,
it's the 5x with backdoors. You can see ace 5 of diamonds, almost pure check raise. 5-4 of diamonds, about 75% of the time. 5-4 of hearts is actually the more preferred one. So that's kind of how you're delineating, I guess, between these two.
I kind of want to lock it and check all the tens and the queen jack and all that stuff.
Wait, what?
I want to see if we check if they don't bet like their tens, like in their less equity hands, like if it's still a check raise.
Oh, you mean if they don't range bet?
Yes.
Sorry. Sure.
I mean, go on.
Let's run it regular first, because.
Yeah. So the raise size I chose looks like I went a little bit large. It wants to go like 11K. I went 12.5. So I went like 60% pot. Not terribly big, but you know, I missed it by a smidge. It's almost certain to not change anything, but I want to get the numbers correct.
Same,
Yeah, so the frequencies are still same. Okay, so right idea. He actually has a 3-bet here with aces at a reasonable frequency, but it's his only 3-bet. So if he played no 3-bets.
What a fish. Look at him calling with all that ace queen and ace jack.
Oh, man, it's like almost pure. Wow. Oh, there you go, Guapo. There's a sliver of ace queen folds.
Hey, there we go.
We found it. Tiny little bit of, but ace jack, it's in.
Pure.
It's because you just have it less. So you need to make up for it. Like you just have the ace queens more often.
Yeah.
Okay, so he doesn't really play 3-bet here. Matter of fact, I think we can just eliminate the 3-bet node altogether because aces is the most frequent 3-bet and he chose not to. So let's just assume he doesn't 3-bet. Okay, he's going to play call. Turn now, queen of diamonds. And this is where it's going to get a little bit spice. Okay, so it looks like I just want to play checker B40. My hand wants to pure bet. I guess I'm not that surprised to see that. Ace 5 of diamonds, though, does do some checking, but I think that's just to check jam since it blocks ace jack, and we need some hands that do choose to check jam. All right, so let me lock here. Is 42E, I wonder? I don't think so. I think it's 50.
50, right?
I think, but let's find out just to be sure. Yeah, so it's 54%. Okay, so it is going to go for the smaller size, which was my instinct, I guess, to begin with. When I said, like, you know, if it was the deuce, I could probably just go like 40 on the turn, all in for 75 on the river type of thing. And then I have like clear targets to shoot at. But let's do a little bit of locking here and give us a bit of checks. Let's say, whatever, let's just say half the time. Let's say half the time we check that hand. What else would I potentially check? Yeah, maybe like a little bit of 10-8 of diamonds. I mean, oh, that one was already, shit. That one was already checking some. Let's see.
Queen jack.
Let's check this one a little bit. Queen jack. Yeah, let's check that a little bit more often. Let's check. Ace king's already checking a lot. That's good. Let's check king 10 a little bit more. Maybe like half the time.
This is your response, right, Berk?
Yeah, this is I'm setting up like my flop play. Okay, yeah. Let's go with that. So we're going to increase our checking frequency a bit so that I actually have 5-4 of diamonds through this line work sometimes. See what the response is in position. Okay, so it wants to choose B40 instead of B66 or B60, I guess he chose. And with his combination of red aces, you can see that he has a pure bet here. So let's increase the size a bit. What size did he use on the turn?
Let's take.
He bet 20,000.
20,000.
33, right?
It's 33.
Okay, so I think that was like 60%. 62%, 61%. Yeah, 61%. Okay. Easy enough. I bet my hand's just gonna jam now. I'm almost certain of it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
Okay. Let's go. I'm not a dum-dum. That's nice. Then I'd be shocked if my hand doesn't just open jam. I assume like all flushes, all straights are just gonna open jam. Yep.
Yeah.
There we go. Okay. So, good news.
You're not in the muck.
I'm not in the muck in theory.
No, nor in the pocket.
Or in the pocket. Yeah, that's true. I'm curious what happens. Like, let's say the river's a brick instead. Let's just put the deuce of spades out. Does my hand just like pure give up?
Yeah.
It does almost. A tiny bit of shoving. Okay. So basically, like, this is what I probably wouldn't find. Would be the little bit of bluffing with the 5-4.
Mm-hmm. You just play it really face up.
I think I would just have to. Especially when he chose that size.
I agree.
I think I was just kind of subject to, okay, well, I'm getting a price. And honestly, like, I considered folding because it's like, I don't know if I get it all.
How often do you get paid on the 6 of diamonds?
Right. It's not like, I just don't know if I get it all. And like, I'm not getting laid a great price here. And I'm definitely not being bluffed.
Yeah.
But then it's just also like, what are you going to do, man? We got here.
We done got here now.
Yeah. So I guess like practically, let's see if I am mucked at all. If we go back and do as you suggested and node lock him to a certain betting strategy. So let's say that he has a checking frequency here of, let's say, under pairs, a little bit of top pair, and then like second, third, some ace highs, and no made hands. Okay, so let's say that he checks 25% of the time with his weakest holdings.
Okay.
Also, I give him a range that's like way too fucking wide. I just realized that. I said I wasn't sure how much like ace queen would be in there squeezing, but like it's funny because there's a whole bunch of other
hands that
random
never
things
see
that like probably just never ever squeeze.
Yeah.
Okay, so now when he chooses this size, I'm probably gonna check raise more. It's still about the same. Yeah, it's still about the same sizes there, and then he calls, turn, queen of diamonds. Now I might start checking more.
This is where I think the funnel would happen, but it doesn't.
No, it's just it's literally just an equity thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the hand is just worth so much based off of picking up the backdoor, and it's still bottom when it comes to your showdown value. Like, I don't have a showdown value hand that's worse than this. 5-3, that's it. And I probably don't even have this hand. So it's like 6-5, 5-4. These are my lowest showdown value hands, and it's not even remotely close. We have no hand that isn't a pair.
Yeah.
And that's rare for a range to be that tight. So when that's the case, your bottom hand that has like reasonable equity is just gonna fucking go. And I knew that instinctually, but like I also knew I was never getting a fold, right? So it's like if I follow this path and like say I do go the B40 route, his response is just like he just jams a fair amount, man. Getting jammed on here 15% of the time sucks. It just sucks. And like also a lot of the hands that are calling are just like doing really well against me. So let's say that he calls and the river's a deuce because this is what I'm doing this for, is to rifle it all off, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, obviously, like, oh, I actually give up. Oh, that's what I would have missed.
Yeah, you would have rifled it off here.
So that's what I would have missed, is that I'm supposed to give up on the triple. I'm also supposed to fold versus the jam.
Mm-hmm.
So these are the two plays. That's why the hand became hard for me to play, because I missed the actual purpose of the holding, which is a good turn barrel to realize equity, only to give up unimproved, or to fold if jammed on, because that jamming range is so dense to better pair plus diamonds, or, you know, hands that were like 2 pair plus, which we don't improve against enough. And that makes perfect sense, I think, because like if you look, even ace 5 of diamonds folds versus jam.
That's interesting. I think
it's because of the jam range. So the jam range is aces, set of kings, set of queens, pocket jacks, which we're not doing well against either.
Yeah.
Ace 10, which again, not doing well against. And then some ace jack, which again, we're just drawing to diamonds. So basically like the jamming range, nothing in the jamming range can we improve to 2 pair of trips versus.
So what? You guys are really just like really condensed or dense on the turn. like your hands.
For aggression,
ranges,
like the polarized range is very condensed.
Yeah.
Right? So his bluffs become like Jack 10 of clubs. So like that's the hand we're doing okay against. We're fully live against Jack 10 of clubs, but we're still losing.
Yeah.
So like his bottom of range that's bluffing.
Yeah, you're still losing.
Ace 5 of diamonds is losing to. So you kind of have to fold. That's the part of the strategy I think I would have gotten wrong. And this is a byproduct of me not playing enough check raise lines in relatively shallow SPR spots. I only say relatively shallow because if I play check call, it's a deep SPR spot.
Yeah.
But because I play check raise on the flop, now all of a sudden we're getting a sub 2 SPR on the turn. And I'm just not studied enough in that specific node against players who I also think trend a little bit too tight. Right? Like I expect there to be a bit of an overfold on the flop. All right. If you guys would like to submit your own In the Muck, head over to our Discord channel. That's hashtag Discord in the chat or at OnlyFriendsPod. At OnlyFriends_pod is our Twitter handle. You can find it in the pinned tweet. We have an entire forum dedicated to In the Muck. If you haven't already, as Guapo mentioned, please smash that like button. We appreciate that so many of you turned up for this particular episode. In the After Dark time slot, nonetheless.
Let's go.
Had almost 800 of you guys concurrent today. Really appreciate it. Don't forget to subscribe, hit that bell. You guys will get alerts every time that we go live. We're going to be back 6 p.m. for the rest of this week. We're going to go dark.
800 showing up. We might be 6 p.m. for the rest of the year.
You know, I think the title might have had something to do with it.
You think? Maybe just a little?
Just maybe. But we'll be back at 6 p.m. tomorrow. Again, Pads is going to be joining us later in the week, as will Matt Hunt. And we're going to be going dark Friday until the following week. So get your fix now before we go on that 10-day vacation. Thank you guys, as always, for supporting us. We appreciate it. We'll see you guys all tomorrow evening.
Later, squad.
Peace.